I think of a casting director, a few people come to mind, and I always see this beautiful face. She is a dear friend who I've known for a long time, and she is one of the best casting directors out there, Miss Melissa Skoff. Yay! Hey, Melish.
Hey, David.
It's so funny. People always say, "Hey, David." They always do.
I know.
It's like, okay.
I know. We've known each other for more years than we'll ever fess up to.
Right? It's
Right.
sort of like I think we knew each other in a past life some way.
Somewhere. I think we were probably related somehow.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So, when did you know you wanted to be a casting director?
Interesting question. When I was a little kid,
Mm.
um, I always knew I was going to be in the movie business. So it was either be an actress or a movie star or work behind the scenes. And so really, I was always so fascinated by film and television. And, it was sort of weird, like when you were watching this person over here, and then you watch this person over here, how they do that. And I mean, I was probably 5 or 6 at the time, but now, then I learned about, about camera moves and editing and all of that stuff. And it was like, how do they get it exactly to be the right time? It was sort of like, well, there's editing again. So I was always fascinated by it. And I always had a propensity for actors and talent. I love talent. I've always loved talent. And so I would see people on screen and I would know their names, and not just movie stars, but other actors too. And sometimes I would see somebody on something and I go, that person's really good. That person's going to be famous one day. And sure enough, they would be. And not because of any magic wand I had, but just following their careers and watching them grow, because other people thought, oh, they're really good,
Right.
And so
you could tell you had that feeling.
well, I've always had an eye for it. I've had an eye for music too, which is really weird because I've told several very well-known singer-songwriters that a song was going to go #1 on their album that hadn't been released yet, and they told me I didn't know what I was talking about, and then the songs went #1. So, there's just something about it. I've been told by people in Nashville and other people out here in the music business, high-end music, that I have the ear. But I also, and that's to me the greatest compliment, because I can't sing a note. But the other thing is, it's with talent too. Like, it's like looking at a diamond in the rough. I can see the diamond, and I've always been able to do that. And it's something that always fascinates me. And I love talent. One of my very favorite shows, well, several of them,
Right.
are The Voice and America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
And Britain's Got Talent, and we pick up things on YouTube from that. But I mean, it's amazing to me. And like, I posted something on my silly Facebook page the other day. There's a little girl, she on America's Got Talent the other night. No, this was Britain's Got Talent. I saw it on online, and she's like 12 years old, and she's saying "Proud Mary." And she nailed it to the wall, and she got the golden buzzer from Simon Cowell.
Right.
And so well deserved. She gave me goosebumps. And then I watched it again, and she gave me goosebumps again. And it's just so exciting to see people, not just 12-year-olds, but and people of all ages and types and stuff and talents,
Mm-hmm.
and what they can do. Although some of the things on America's Got Talent, I don't know why you want to be a sword swallower.
Oh my God.
Or I don't know why you want to stand like 5 people on top of each other. Some things I just don't get. But I don't not appreciate it. I just turn the other way sometimes.
Right.
But I love actor talent, and I love performances, and I love to really enjoy a movie or a TV show or something where I can just really lose myself in the story and the way it's told by the actors.
Yeah.
And so so that's just always been my passion, or one of my passions is talent.
Yeah.
And when I was 13, my dad said, "What do you want to do this summer?" And I said, "I want acting lessons." And this was before there were acting classes on every corner,
Yeah.
And so my dad opened up, it was on a Saturday. My dad opened up the Sunday paper, Saturday Sunday paper, and he went down to the, to the ads, and he goes, "Oh, here's one." And we called and made an appointment, and I started this adult acting class. And I was 13, my sister was 11, and we just jumped in, and it was so much fun.
Oh, so you did it with your sister?
I did it with my sister, and then I went through. We had a drama department in my high school, and then I went to college, and I have a degree in theater, film, and TV, and so it was all of this stuff, and then, but I mean, I was clearly destined for the movie business. There was no question, and I was really, I'll share this because it astounds me when I think back on it. When I graduated college, I was actually a tour guide at Universal Studios, and my junior senior year in college, and my freshman and sophomore year,
yeah,
I had fallen into a job working for a guy known, a paid job, working. He became student body president, and in my college, and I got a job with him. So when I graduated, I had 2 years of paid secretarial experience and 2 years working at Universal Tours. And so I started applying at studios. My dream was to work at Warner Brothers, because I'd been on VIP tours there before, which they weren't, it was a different VIP tour than it is now, but I knew somebody there, and I used to call up and say, "I'd like to come and take the tour on Friday again," and I just do it. And I applied at several studios and had job offers at all of them, including Warner Brothers.
right.
I actually started at Paramount before I started at Warner Brothers, just floating, because you had to float in order to get your day so you could join the office union.
Right.
And so I started there, but then I had a job offer at Warner Brothers, and I walked right in, and I became the assistant to the entire music editorial department,
Oh,
which
wow.
was very exciting, because I got to work with everybody, all the directors on all the feature films and TV shows that were coming through. And it was really exciting.
And that's how you're connected to the music part of it as well.
Well, actually, I always had like this weird connection to music. Like I say, I can't sing a note, and I have a guitar, and it's like people, very accomplished artists and some famous artists have picked up my guitar, and I go, "Oh, it works," because I never quite. I had 3 guitar teachers quit on me, so it really wasn't my forte. But I do have the ear, so, and
yeah.
I love music, as you know.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and and anything to do with talent. So anyway, so I went to work in Warner Brothers, and I worked in the music editorial department. And when that assignment was done, I started working for different producers and directors. And I had so many opportunities to do things. I was actually offered, which I was told was like unheard of by this man who ran the editorial department. I was offered an apprenticeship at Warner Brothers Feature Film Editing. And I turned it down because I didn't want to be a film editor. I wanted to be in casting. I wanted to work with actors.
You like more of that connection.
Yeah, I didn't want to be locked in a room with a whole bunch of tape or film that I could accidentally piece together wrong.
Right.
I wanted to be I wanted to be with talent. That's with actors. That's was my passion. And so I worked for producers and directors for several years, and then I segued into an opening at Warner Brothers. I actually was working for Clint Eastwood at the time, which was great.
Now, was that your first casting job for Clint?
No, I mean, I was working for him as an assistant.
Oh.
I was working on a film he had hired. He was going to make a movie. It ended up not getting made, but I was going to work on that film with a writer, producer, and Clint was also going to produce it and direct it. And it was really wonderful. And then I got this job that came up in casting that I'd wanted for a long time. And I went to Clint one day and I said, "We need to talk." And he would always grin at me and put his arm around me. He was like a total gentleman. He was so cute. Yeah. And he put his arm around me and go, "What do you need to talk about?" And I said, "I'm quitting."
Oh no.
I'm going into casting. I'm thinking, what am I saying? And Clint just grinned at me and he said, did I do something wrong? And I said, no, I love working here, but I've wanted to be in casting, and I've got this opening. And he said, hey, so we'll work together in casting. And we did. Which was really wonderful, because I started, and my boyfriend at the time, who was an executive at Warner Brothers, said, you can't go from being Clint Eastwood, one of the assistants, to being a receptionist in a casting department. And I said, yes, I can, and I will, because I need to learn it from the ground up. So I went in there. We were as busy as could be, because we were 3 departments melded into one. We were feature film, television, and administrative casting. So I learned everything from the ground up: contracts, paperwork, all of that stuff, the TV end of it and the feature end of it. And then I became the assistant, associate, whatever, we didn't have those titles then, to the head of the department. And she was the head of feature film and TV casting. And then they promoted me, and we were working features, and then they promoted me and put me in the TV department. And so I had a really fantastic opportunity to work in all 3 areas. Of course, the administrative area also was part of working in features and television. And it was very, very exciting, and I loved every day of it. And it was blood, sweat, and tears. Don't get me wrong; it wasn't an easy, breezy kind of a situation, but it was an incredible, intense learning situation with lots and lots of hours. And I always, in casting, have found that I get a lot of work done after everybody goes home. And I mean, I would be there; it would be me and the guard at the end of the hall, and I would just be there till all hours, because I'm just getting everything organized and doing the research. Because being a casting director, David, takes a lot of research, because you got to find the right people, and you've got to, sometimes I remember the first TV movie I ever cast, which was really great. It was a remake of an old movie called The Letter. And we had Lee Remick, who I loved, and who didn't love Lee Remick, and Ian McShane, who was a hunk.
Oh my God. I met him on the set with Jerry.
Oh yeah?
On Deadwood.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart. Well, he does, when he was back in the day, OMG, he was a hunk of burning love.
Well, he's still,
one of the nicest guys.
What an energy that man has.
Lovely energy, and a brilliant actor. And his wife and I were friends too. And I actually went out with him a couple of times for dinner and stuff. I just love working with him. But anyway, this movie took place in Malaysia. And so, I was a little unfamiliar with, Malaysian accents and stuff. So I got out, I went to the library, and I looked at books on Malaysia so I could really get a feel for what people look like and everything.
Yeah.
I did my research there. And then there was a wonderful, wonderful man who I absolutely adored, named Guy Lee, who ran an agency called the Bessie Lou Agency.
Right.
And he specialized in Asian actors, and I called him up and said, help. And he helped me, line up some people that played Malaysian, looked Malaysian.
Right.
So anyway, so I don't want to go on.
No, I love these. It's like you're taking me on a ride and a journey, and it's like, oh, I feel like I'm in one of those Disneyland rides, and it's like, and this happened here for Melissa, and this happened here.
Yeah. Oh no,
I want to, because somebody just popped on from one of your hit shows, Jag.
Oh yeah, who's on?
Well, I just will find out. I mean, there were so many amazing people in that show that you cast for, what is it, over 150 episodes?
Something like that, yeah.
159. There was David James Elliott, Catherine Bell. There was so many. There was Randy Vasquez.
Yeah.
And we've got one of them here today.
Who?
Hello?
Who is it? I'm dying to know.
I know. It's like very secretive here. Oh, it's taking a little time to get on. What about Jag? What about Jag?
What about Jag?
Yeah.
Jag was a hit show. It was.
No.
Yeah, we did well in the ratings and stuff, and it was a challenging show to cast because, you know, I had like an average of about 18 to 25 characters or so to cast every week.
Wow.
And, you know, when an episode runs about 7 days, unless it goes over a day or so, you know, when we start, let's say when we start to shoot episode 7,
Right.
we're prepping episode 8. And the day we start shooting episode 8, we're prepping episode 9. Excuse me. So you have a constant influx of people you need to cast, and sometimes it was nuts because the producers, like, they give me a script and we'd start to cast it, and 2 or 3 days in they go, you know, we think this script still needs some work, so take this one instead. And it was like, because now I'd have to go back and start from scratch, but I'm missing a few days. So it was a lot of hours, which I never complained about. I was always there till the wee hours.
What about you? Was it a lot of hours for you?
Who are we talking to? Randy!
Hi.
Hey, oh, look at you. You're as cute as you ever were. I like the salt and pepper. You're very distinguished now.
Well, one likes to think these things. Yeah, distinguished. I'll take it. Look at you.
Yeah, how have you been? I miss you.
No, I'm fine. I was telling David earlier that I'm actually, you know, man, a lot of years of acting and stuff. But so now I've been creative in a lot of other ways. But kind of developing my own TV show.
Great.
Based on my father growing up in Mexico during World War II and down in Mexico. And it's about the Negro League baseball players that would go down to Mexico and play in the Mexican League because there was this crazy millionaire. He was like, they call him the Mexican George Steinbrenner. And he would pay the best black players. They'd come down and he'd put them in penthouses, pay them triple what they were making here in the States. And it was Mexico's golden age of baseball.
Uh-huh.
So, and this went from about 1940 to 1948. So I'm developing a series based on those players. Awesome. And a book that tells about what happened during these years and how he influenced Major League Baseball and stuff.
That's so cool.
That's great.
And yeah, just listening to your talk about how TV series are made, and you know, it's crazy. I can imagine. I mean, it's easy for me just being the actor and showing up, but behind the scenes is.
I know, and I cast you.
I know. Well, I remember that day because I don't know if you remember, but it was in I think June of '99.
That's about right.
And in May or June, the pilot season had been announced for that fall, and of course there wasn't a lot of diversity, and a lot of the groups were making some noise, and so. But also, I had just come off The Love Boat, which had been canceled. So,
right.
You know, coming off a show, I guess I was kind of hot. But I walked in that day, and Don was in there, and you know, the other couple producers and you, and he said that, well, we're determined to get a Latino on this show, blah, blah, blah. And I did the audition, and that was it.
Yep. And we loved you. But, you know, I think, with all due respect, I think it was CBS, if I'm not mistaken, who said, you know, let's bring a Latino regular in. And I said, fantastic. Yeah. Because I love to, you know, to cast the rainbow of types and ethnicities. And so I was thrilled to have the opportunity to do that, and that we were adding on a character, because we can always do that, you know.
Do you feel more and more the rainbow is getting brighter for the casting?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was just, you know, it was being, I mean, first of all, when you cast a military show, the military is made up of multiple ethnicities, and our audience was made up of multiple ethnicities. And so my feeling was, and always is, and always has been, that you need to appeal to and represent everybody. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't like things that are just white bread or what. It's like I find it offensive. It's like that's not what the world is all about.
Yeah.
So it was really great to be able to do that. And then there was our friend. I have to share this one too because this is a great little tidbit to add to our little thing. And you were around then, Randy. This is before you. When I first really started casting the show, I came on at the top of second season. I was casting director number 3 at the top of second season, by the way. So anyway, the other 2 just couldn't handle it, and they were good casting people.
Couldn't handle Don.
Yeah, well, hello. So anyway, there was a role that came up, and it was like I think it was like one line, and it was something like. It was the role of the yeoman. And a yeoman, for those of you who don't know the military terms, it's like an assistant to the admiral. So, or to, I guess, other higher ups too in the military. So anyway, so we needed a yeoman. And the line, I don't remember it, but it was something like, General Vasquez is on the phone for you, Admiral. Something like that. But we needed that line. So anyway, so now I brought in some guys to read them for this one line because I thought, well, if it's a yeoman, he could come back. So I brought in some guys, and this lovely guy named Chuck Harrington came in, and we hired him. And and I'd always say to every actor that came in, I probably said it to you too, Randy. Yeah. If you don't have military bearing and presence, the guys won't consider you for a military role. So anyway, we hired Chuck, and a few episodes later, there's the yeoman. Bring back Chuck. A couple episodes in, there's the yeoman. Bring back Chuck. Well, lo and behold, sooner or later, Chuck became a series regular off of one line. Wow. And I'd love to tell that story because there's no such thing as a small role.
It's a great story.
It led to a real nice career break for him, and he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah. But so are you, Randy.
Well, it was great. I mean, I thought, my thought, I remember, so you're going to have to get a Marine haircut. And I was going, oh.
Yeah, right.
So I stepped out.
It's like, and there's a little caveat.
I know. But look I'm living in the condo that Don built.
You're right.
That was, whatever. It was great to go into work every day. Jeez.
Yeah.
And then Don put me on the first Monday, and I was lucky he liked me. He was lucky he liked me,
Yeah. No, it was great. Yeah. Yeah. I cast that pilot too.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah.
God, so you guys have. It's interesting that domino effect when you start working with people. Oh, let's call this person in. I know their work.
And also it's actors, you build a relationship, but it's also a trust. Like I know if I bring Randy in that he's going to be solid and I don't have to worry about anything. And in most cases that's, and I'm all for trying out people that I don't know too, because I love discovering people. Yeah. And, and I just, but there are those people that are a sure thing, and it's really nice to have those people like Randy in your hip pocket, where you just like, oh well, let me bring in Randy, and if you get it or you don't get it, I still know you're gonna be good. So
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Well, it's I've had the joy of working with Randy in a couple of projects, and it's good to know, again, that there's good people in this land of Hollywood.
Yeah, there are, and there's some very challenging people to work with too. But we know how to work with those too.
Exactly.
Dave, you just reminded me of that time I had an audition. Jesus, this was back in 2008. It was for a movie down in Mexico, and they wanted remember that? They wanted a self-tape. They wanted me to film a couple of scenes from the...
Oh, right.
And I went over to your apartment, and you filmed them. I was creeping around your couch, trying, taking cover and ducking down and yelling commands and all that stuff. And it worked. I got it. So
good.
Good.
Those were in the days. I mean, pre self-tape. I mean, there's always been kind of self-tape stuff.
There always have, yeah.
But
Well, it's interesting because one of my first gigs at Warner Brothers Casting as a casting director was The Dukes of Hazzard, and
Yes.
when John Schneider and Tom Wopat abruptly left the show for 17 episodes, it was my search, but we conducted what was then, I think, the biggest talent search in the history of television, and we had there were agents all over the country, and managers and actors sending in tapes, that were out of state, and we did fly some in to screen test, and then so the idea of tapes is not a new idea, but it's just the way it's being implemented now.
What do you prefer? Do you like seeing somebody in person? I mean, of course, not right now during
Right, not during the
pandemic,
pandemic, but yeah, I think I ask actors sometimes, if you had your choice, what would you choose? And some actors will say, well, I prefer doing a self-tape. And I say, why? And they say, because I can keep doing it until I get it right. And I say, okay, how do you know when it's right?
exactly.
You don't. And the thing is, when you're in the room, there's an energy, and we also get to know you. And there's also, usually, not with all casting people, but usually there's discussion, there's chatter, there's, what have you been up to, there's whatever. And also your aura enters the room. And when you leave, you want to leave your aura in the room, because that's what we're going to remember. And then also, we always want hard copy pictures and resumes. At least I do. I still do. And then at the end of the session, we either like have a table, or we just lay everything out on the floor like a deck of cards. And then we see, okay, we have these guys for this and these guys for that. And when you have the picture in front of you, and producers and directors will pick it up and look at the resumes, and and then we can mix and match, and we can figure out who we're calling back, who we're going to set, what we still need, whatever. And so, but I like live auditions, and my office, I think Randy remembers this, it was a revolving door. It was like there was never a dull moment, and the phones never stopped ringing off the hook. And now casting is a weird animal, because everything is like on the computer, and you get thousands of thumbnail submissions. And if I'm looking for a 40-year-old character guy, I know a lot of those guys, and so I can go through and assume that they're available if they're being submitted, and say, oh yeah, him and him and him and him, and I don't know this guy, look him up, I don't know this guy, look him up, and him, yeah, and I make my list. But if I'm looking for, let's say, a 12-year-old girl, I know 12-year-old girls, but I haven't been casting 12-year-old girls. So the ones that I've worked with in my classes, or I've worked with on different shows, they may not be 12 anymore. And kids grow up so fast these days, it's hard to keep up with them. So I'm, I get all these thumbnail submissions, and now I'm sitting on the computer, and then the thumbnail comes up. They're all gorgeous. So I hit it, and now I have to hit it again to enlarge it. And then it's like, looks good. Then I have to click again to look at the resume. Well, and then I have to take copious notes, because, you can put a pin in it and all that, but it's like, how do you remember all these people? Pretty soon, you've got 800 submissions coming in, and pretty soon you've got, 112 ideas. And it's like, now you got to go back and, and sift through that again. And it actually creates a lot more work than it does when you have people come in the room, that, and you can, sit down with them and say, yeah, okay. And I always love to give callbacks in the room, like, go see my assistant, get a callback. Or I write down the callback, or I'll say, we'll get back to you, and then maybe that person's callback.
Well, it's that human connection. I love that human
connection. Yeah. Because here's the problem with putting yourself on tape. Let's look at, let me be the devil's advocate. I'm not speaking about myself, because I look at everything and I love talent.
Yeah.
But not every casting director loves talent. I've had casting directors I've heard, I hate actors. It's like, well, then what the hell are you doing in casting? Go do something else. So the thing is, if you put yourself on tape, and let's say you even have a good audition or a decent audition that you submit, okay, after you put yourself on tape, who's looking at it? Is it the casting director? Is it an assistant? Is it an associate? Is it an intern? Is it nobody? There's no guarantee anybody's going to look at it. And if they do look at it, are they texting their boyfriend or girlfriend? Did they get up to go to the ladies' room or men's room? Did the phone ring? You know, are they doing their nails? I mean, you don't know how much attention is going to be paid to the tape. And I mean, I put people on tape. It's like, you know, we do that, and we, you know, always want to get the best audition we can get.
Mm-hmm.
But you also lose a little bit of performance when you get a tape as opposed to being in the room. So, you know, people are getting cast off of it. And I don't think I'm off base in predicting that most, if not all, of the auditions in the foreseeable future, with the exception of maybe a series regular where you have a sit down with the producer director, maybe 3 or 4 different people are being considered. I think most everything's going to be put yourself on tape, which means cold reading skills are more important than ever before.
Well, one thing that I really enjoyed is when, one of the times that I can remember is when I worked for you as an assistant for Augusta Gone.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a good learning experience.
Yeah.
I mean, you really, I mean, I had done a few things here and there, but you really taught me the structure of it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And there is a structure of it. Randy was going to say something.
Yeah, I like what you say, Melissa. I mean, a lot of actors say, yeah, I love self-tape. And, you know, what I hate about self-tape is that before you know, you've spent 4 or 5 hours on a damn scene. That seems too, I mean,
it's like overkill, but you still don't know if you have, I mean, because so many, like, you know, sometimes you get, you know, as a coach, I mean, I've read so many scripts and cast so many things, you know, but if I'm casting it, I know what we're looking for. If I'm not casting it, sometimes things are generic enough that several roads lead to Rome, you know, so you can, and we try different things to see what works best. And, you know, and sometimes even do a backup, you know, doing it a different way. But I just really, yeah, I mean, it's imperative that we nail it, and there's not a lot of information given, and people are, you know, much more private about their projects because they don't want it to get out on the internet and, you know, all of that stuff. So you know, so actors are getting less and less information and being relied on more and more to come up with, you know, perfect self-tape. So
yeah, I had a audition earlier this year. I went into the office over in Wilshire, and I had read the scene and I had a take on it, what I thought I understood about it as was written. And I went in there and auditioned, and the casting just said, no, this is what's going on. And I'm going, and in my mind, I'm going, oh my God. He says, yeah, it's hard to get from the sides. I know it's hard to. Mm-hmm. And so there's that, and if you're doing a self-tape, then you're screwed because you can go off in a whole other direction.
Exactly.
As opposed to going into the office and having that kind of bomb dropped on you. But, you know, a good cast director will understand and help you get through it. And this guy, I can't remember his name, but we did it until he felt that I'd gotten it right. And I really
exactly, because you got direction, you know, and you don't get the advantage of direction when you put it on tape. I mean, except with a coach. But again, you know, I've cast over 150 TV shows and feature films and hundreds of episodes. Yeah. So it's like I pretty much have a pretty good idea of what is what. But again, sometimes things are a little tricky. I was doing a movie once for Warner Brothers years ago after as an independent casting director, after I'd gone independent. And it was a comedy, but it was a very quirky movie. And the guys that were coming in, and they were all really established actors, just weren't quite getting it. So I remember I called an agent on this one actor, and I thought he's really right for this. And I said, but I want him to come in and pre-read with me. Yeah. And the agent said, he's not going to come in and pre-read. He doesn't need to. And I said, listen, if he comes in, I'm going to give him the answers to the quiz. So I think he needs to come in.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I don't. And I said, just ask him. Well, are you guaranteeing him a callback? And I said, I'm 99% guaranteeing him a callback unless he really blows it. So I wouldn't be calling you if I didn't think he could pull it off, but let's give it a try. And the actor came in, he said, I'm so glad I could come in and work on this with you because it's a little ambiguous.
Yes.
And we got it, and he got the part.
Like that. It's ambiguous. It's ambiguous sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's hard enough to figure out a scene. Sometimes actors will say, oh, this is what it's about. And they'll follow through on their choice, totally unaware that it's not that.
Yeah.
They send that self-tape in, they don't get it. And but I don't, there's, auditioning. I fortunately have my reps like me and they send me out, and I've learned a lot. I've grown up a lot, Melissa, since we've talked. And I think that personal maturation process really helps in the office, because you're so much more fearless as you get older as an actor.
Sure.
So that's helped me a lot. And so I have a lot of confidence, and that's really helped my process. I mean, but it comes down to, figuring it out as much as you can,
Mm-hmm.
and just executing that honestly. And over the years, I've learned that so many casting directors say, just talk to me. Just,
Mm-hmm.
it's simple.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always that simplicity that so many people seem to want on TV, I guess, particularly. But I was fortunate enough. I did a Will and Grace last year.
Oh, cool! I love that show.
Yeah, and I was going over it with a friend, and we thought we had decided on what I wanted to do, but between working on it and going to the auditions, something else hit my brain. I thought, no, it's got to be a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Because this is Will and Grace.
Right.
And so I notched it up a little bit with my choice, a little more theatrical, a little more fun, and I got it. So, you just never know. You got to, a sitcom, you got to be a little bit bigger and funner.
Well, yeah, and Will and Grace is an over-the-top show anyway, because Megan Mullally doesn't talk like that, and Sean Hayes is like so, big and broad, and it's wonderful because it's so playful and so broad. Yeah. And it's the same thing with Seinfeld when it was on the air, And
I don't think I could have gotten Will and Grace 10, 15 years ago. I don't know if I would have been open.
You maybe more reserved, maybe.
Probably, yeah, more controlled. But now is a good time, and I hope I can do more. I see my sense of humor has gotten a lot better as I've gotten older, of course. I laugh a lot easier. It's great. And it's great. And so, but I don't know. I mean, I ask you, if we're going to do all these self-tapes and we can pay people a lot of money to work on it for an hour with us, or we can really lean on what we've learned over all these years in these classes and really apply it to a scene on our own.
Sure.
Work on it with an acting friend or whoever who knows something. But it comes down to, knowing what the scene is and putting that there.
Well, classes are so important.
Classes are so important, yeah.
And you teach.
I do teach. Well, you teach too. Yeah, we both do. And it's just, it's all about just, keeping the wheels turning and the machine oiled and working. And I think it's very exciting to see what we come up with. And it's always great to work with another person. I think, a lot of people do rely on me to help them with auditions and stuff, and I love doing it. But it's, it is more challenging now for actors because, again, cold reading skills are more important than ever before, because you got to be able to go right to the heart of the character and the core of the scene without much time to prepare, if you have any time at all. We had one guy when I was casting Jag. It just came to my mind. He was so cute. And I don't even remember who it was, but I brought him in for some role, and a good role. But it was a last minute thing. And because we got a lot of additional characters written with not much time to cast them. And so anyway, he comes in and he was like a house painter, and he's covered in paint. He's wearing white, things, and he's covered. And he walked in, and we just started laughing. And he goes, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. My agent called me. I had a job. I'm painting this house, and I didn't have time to go home because I live on the other side." And we're going, "It's okay. It's okay." It was either get here or not get here. So I got here. It's okay. So, and he had hardly any time to even look it over, and he nailed it. He got the job, and it was like good for him, for just, making the choice to just show up as he was. Sometimes actors would do stupid things though. Like I remember on JAG again, there was one guy and one girl, like in 2 separate episodes, who like went to like Western costume and costumed up. And it's like, we had this wonderful, wonderful wardrobe man who we love, Paul. And he had every uniform in every size and every shape that you could imagine. And if
didn't he win a bunch of Emmys?
I think he did. I love that man. And he, so it was like, it's not a costume audition.
Yeah.
It's a chemistry test, it's like, come on in and show us the character. And they would cut, and this guy came in, and these were both accredited actors that came in and did this. And it embarrassed me. And then afterwards, it was sort of like, oh my God. And, the guys are, commenting on it. And it's like, not in a very flattering way. And it's sort of like, that's not what you do. When I was doing Dukes of Hazzard, we get a lot of people coming in coveralls, and we get a lot of people coming in, in like, especially the girls, in their Daisy Duke shorts and their little tight, midriffs and things. And it was fine. It was just kind of the style of the day anyway. But yeah, I always tell actors, unless somebody says, sometimes for extra work, I guess, if it's supposed to be like evening attire, you're supposed to like come and bring your evening attire for your audition. That's different. But
we have a student sent in a question, Lanzarod Record, and he said, "What's the number one thing you look for when you're casting an actor for a part?"
Talent.
Number one.
Yeah, I mean, it's what do you bring to the party? It's a professionalism. It's a look, and it's it's like, how much do you own the character? How much do you live the life of the character? And because if I'm reading 20 guys, like when I was casting Randy, I brought in a bunch of guys.
Yeah, I was out in the hall with them.
Yeah, you were. I'm sure for a long time too. And but we have to have choices. And, and we have to get the job done in a timely fashion. So I think when we cast you, it was right. And you said June, it was probably right before, because we usually started right after 4th of July, but I would come on early to add characters or do the pre-work that I needed to do. Yeah. So I think we started you at the top of the season, if I'm not mistaken.
So.
But we got to cut to the chase, and it's got to be right. Because I can't be, groping around looking for this and that. I've got to do all my homework in a timely fashion and bring in the guys that I think are the most likely to book it. So yeah, talent would be my one-word answer to that.
What about Melissa? What about, memorizing as opposed to not memorizing, or is it it doesn't matter if you have a sheet or what?
Yeah, good question. You know what? The general rule of thumb is don't memorize it. Just get comfortable with it, unless you're coming from painting a house. Get comfortable with it. But sometimes you're asked to memorize it, in which case, you memorize it. Sometimes kids are asked to memorize. But it's not a memory test. It's a memory test once you get the job. Oh, in fact, this is a good one. Oh, I'll share this one with you. It was right after I started doing JAG. And we were just a few episodes in, as I recall. And I brought in this guy, and again, like a military type guy. This guy, I brought him in, I knew him, and he had been a series regular before on at least 1 or 2 shows, and he had a ton of credits and everything. And I was really happy that he was coming in. And he came in, he nailed it, booked the job. And I think we hired him like on a Tuesday, and then he was supposed to go to work on Thursday. And so anyway, Thursday morning, I get a call from the set, an angry call from the set. Like it's my fault. Like we were all in the room. And the message goes something, or the call goes something like, you know, this guy doesn't even know his name. And he said, what are you talking about? He's got a shitload of credits. No, he doesn't know line 1. And he had a lot of dialogue, because Jag had a lot of dialogue.
Oh.
And I said, that's not possible. It's possible. He doesn't. I said, did you find out why he didn't? Did he get like the wrong pages or something? What? No, he just doesn't. I said, we'll find out why, and I will take care of this. We obviously couldn't replace him. So what I did was I called one of my students. And I said, are you available for the next 7 days? Because this was like the lead guest star. And he said, yeah. And I said, get your butt over to the set in Valencia. I'm going to pay you whatever it was we decided to pay him. And I said, you're not coaching him, you're teaching him his lines. And he said, okay. And I said, you'll be there all day and all night with him, as long as it takes for him to know his lines. Just, this is going to be your job for the next 7 days. He said, great. And he got over there, he started running lines with this guy, and we got him through it.
This is actually for both of you. What was one of your most enjoyable projects that you worked on? Something that you go, I love that one.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Back to school with Rodney Dangerfield.
Yes. Why?
Sam Kinison.
Oh God, you know, Sam did that. There's a story that goes with
But he didn't audition, did he?
No, because he was a friend of Rodney's, and we wrote that role for him. But I say we, I was part of the movie, but I didn't write it. But anyway, but it was basically his shtick, right? So Sam, Rodney said to me, and Rodney, you know, I loved him dearly, but Rodney was not like the most businesslike man I ever met in my life. So Rodney says to me, and it's like 3 or 4 weeks before he's going to shoot, and he says, every day you need to call Sam and remind him that on such and such a date, first thing in the morning, we're going to be picking him up and taking him to the set. Otherwise, he just won't show up. And I said, okay. So every day on my little checklist, call Sam, call Sam. So now we shot our first week in Wisconsin, and we come back and we're in the office on Sunday. And we're going to start shooting the first 2 days in LA. We're at the Wilshire Ebell Theater, which was the classroom, which is the first 2 days were Monday and Tuesday were Sam. And it was all Sam. So anyway, so we're in the office on Sunday. Everything we think is organized. And the wardrobe supervisor comes running in, and she's panicked. And she says, I just talked to Sam. He's in New York. Everybody looks at me. I went, whoa, wait a minute. Wait just a bloody second. I called him every day. Where is he? He's at the Pierre Hotel at a wedding. So somehow I managed to get him on the phone. Don't ask me how. And I said, Sam, I don't know what you're thinking, but you're shooting tomorrow and Tuesday all day. It's on you, and we need you here. And I called you every day. You know that. You need to be here. We need to get you back. I'm at my friend's wedding. I'll be back Wednesday. I said, on me. So now, like, the producers get into it, and they're trying to get Sam on the phone, and they can't. And they finally like bribe somebody at the hotel to like, we'll pay you, we'll send you a check. Just go in there and get him on the phone for us. And now it's like 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the afternoon, and we got to get him here first thing in the morning. We ended up giving him 2 first-class tickets, one for him and one for this girl he was with, to get him back here. And somehow we had to route him. We had the airlines on the phone. Oh my God. And we got him. We get him back, and on a red eye. And we sent this guy who was like 6'7", who was one of our drivers, to get him. And I'm in the office when the driver comes in, and he goes, okay, he's on the set. I delivered him. He said, but I hope you don't mind. I had to kick the front door in because I kept knocking and he wouldn't answer. So I bashed the door, and we said, that's fine. We'll replace the door. Don't worry about it. So the guy said, I pulled him out of bed, put him in the shower, put him in the car, and got him to the set. And we said, thank you. And so everything that Sam did in that, in those scenes, which are classic scenes, were improvised. And so all these, we had a classroom full of extras, right? And Sam was just, for those of you who don't know Sam, you should watch Back to School. It's brilliant comedy.
Yeah.
But anyway, Sam was like jumping in their faces and screaming at them, and and these extras were like, like this, because it was all on the cuff. They didn't know what was going on, and neither did we. And it turned out great.